Knives don't last forever. And sometimes, if the blade doesn't just get filed away to nothing, sometimes the handle will go bad. This is an old hickory. They're a pretty good mass-produced knife. In fact, a darn good mass-produced knife. And part of that hickory handle got split off. This is a full tang. By that I mean the profile of the steel in the middle is the same as the profile of the wood scales on the outside. I'm going to show you a quick and dirty way to put a set of scales on almost any full tang knife. So you don't need much. You need the knife you're going to fix. You need a drill and some drill bits and some pony clamps. You need the wood for the scales and the ability to cut it. You need something, in this case copper wire for rivets, and you need some epoxy. That's probably it. This is a tapered handle. I'm going to cut the slabs just a little wider than the max width of the handle. So here's the thing. If you're putting a new handle on an existing knife, you better assume that that old knife is sharp enough to cut you. And when you're doing all this work, you're going to end up bleeding a little bit. So I'm just going to intentionally blunt the edge of that, and then we'll sharpen it again when we're done. So this is the old handle. You see it's got that bevel on the end where the handle tapers down to the blade. That would be hard to do once it's on the knife. So I'm going to grind a bevel kind of like that on the ends of both of these scales, and we'll worry about the sides in the end once the handle is glued together. So there's three things you got to pay attention to when you're picking out your epoxy, at least. The set time, the color, and the ultimate strength. And for what we're doing here, I'm using this JB Weld because it's clear. I think this Gorilla is the strongest of the bunch, and it has a 10-minute set time, but it's black. I didn't notice that. This DevCon is clear, but it's got a 30-minute set time. So we're going to use this. 5-minute set time, which means, buddy, I got to hurry. And we're going to glue on scale number 1. So squirt some in. That's exactly 3 times more than I needed. Pull the plunger back. If you're worried about having material for the next one, you can put that in there. Pretty nice. Take your little handy-dandy wooden paddle and mix it up, and you'll see it begin to become kind of a milky color, indicating it's mixed. And right now, sports fans, we've got less than 5 minutes. So let's not waste any time, should we? It looks pretty well mixed.
I said to do it for a minute.
Oh, thank you. Reading the instructions, it says to do it for a minute. Surely 20 seconds will do. Like batching the concrete truck, you've got to have all of the cement in contact with water and rock and sand. And this feels like a minute to me. We're going to carefully paint some epoxy onto this handle. I really don't want it to squirt out in the front. And always keeping in mind that the rivets are going to be doing a man's job once it's assembled. And take the pony clamp. And adjust so the wood projects proud of the metal everywhere. Just a little bit proud there. Yes. And we're going to set it right there for 5 minutes. Now, if you want to depend on epoxy, you can, but it's nice to rivet. And if the old knife, where's my old scale? I don't know. The old knife had rivets. That means that there's holes in that tang, as we've pointed out, that can be utilized again. What you don't know is what size the rivet was, the diameter of the rivet, before you start. But once you get the tang exposed, now you can figure out what size it is. And as it turns out, the hole in this tang corresponds very closely to a number 8 solid copper wire, which corresponds very closely to, what did I decide this was? Come on, eyes. 9/64. So we're going to drill a 9/64 hole through from the tang side. I'm going to cut that epoxy off and get ready to put the rivet in. Now before I bounce off of this is number 8, this is number 6, this is number 4. I don't think all 3 of these, 1 foot each, cost me $5. That's enough to have in your inventory for a good long time for miscellaneous riveting jobs. There you go. The beauty of that is, now you know how to hit the hole inside the tang. Now here's a thing that'll help a little bit. We'll get it a little right this time. Pull the plunger back. Put some back pressure on it before you take that end off. And then it's not going to boil out everywhere before you're ready. And then put a bunch in there and then pull it back again. Kind of regulate the flow like that. Now, how are we going to get that on there? There we go. That's one of the nice features of some of these epoxies. It's resealable. Okay, so now I'm just going to coat these things in epoxy. They're a little longer than the net distance here. So my friend Cy is a big proponent of epoxy. He says there's no reason not to epoxy everything to do with a knife, and rivet, and fit, and all of it. And he makes a lot of knives. You may have seen him on the channel. Cy's a Renaissance man like nobody else. If you want one of his knives, check out greenvalleyforge.com. We'll put the link in the description. But the epoxy sets up, and I'm going to set this out in the sun because epoxy is an exothermic reaction. That is, it makes heat. And the hotter it is, the faster it goes off. And we need that to get hard enough that I can grind it here in about maybe an hour. So I'm going to put that out in the sun, see if it'll warm up, and see if those things will just really lock in there. So don't believe them when they say 5-minute setup. What that means is you have 5 minutes of working time. It takes an hour to get anywhere near hard, and it took 24 hours for this to get hard enough that I feel that I can sand it. So we're going to gently sand it, grind it, shape it. I've got most of the stock to remove on the top side of the blade. Threw a little masking tape on there to give me the illusion of protection when I get next to the blade itself. And so perhaps what you have is a belt sander. I'm going to start with a belt sander, but then move over to my 2x72 because that's the way to get the work done. So one thing about a 2x72, it's easy to get it too small. So I almost got it too small, but it's for a woman's hand, right? It's a kitchen knife. I just dropped down to a used 100 grit belt. I'm going to slow the speed down, smooth it up, and then go probably back into the wood shop and just take the palm sander and make it shine. Go put a little final sand on that, get rid of some scratches. So Cy Swan does such a perfect job on his ironwood handles. And this is going to be a close counts kind of a thing, because that's what we're demonstrating. But the copper rivets worked out just right. The black walnut's going to look pretty good, and I'm going to use my little orbital sander to just get rid of some of the 100 grit scratches, and then we'll put some oil on this. Got to get right in there with a file, and then we are going to oil this thing up and put it to bed. So I am so far from an expert on finishes. I can't really tell you why I like to use tung oil more than boiled linseed oil. I just don't even know. But there is something about this stuff. It smells better and it goes on nice, and I don't know. But in the comments, would you please explain to us the difference between the different oils? Are they called catalyzing oils? The ones that'll burn your shop down? The ones that you can put on and dry and buff and then add additional coats to get the depth? I'm under the impression, at least, that tung oil is easily repairable, pretty waterproof, the wood likes it, and it goes on pretty easy, even for somebody like me. So obviously, that just didn't take much gear. I mean, I've got a lot of gear, but you could do it with very minimal equipment. A little piece of a copper wire, a little bit of 5-minute, 24-hour epoxy, maybe a file. You got to have a hammer and something, maybe a sledgehammer to use as an anvil. You know, you got to be able to cut a little bit of wood, but we can do that, I mean, if we want to. And it's a good first step into knife making, because it's not knife making, but it's some of the steps that you're going to want to master if you want to make knives. So maybe you get over the idea that I can't do anything with knives until I can forge a blade. Set that aside. That's a whole nother investment and obsession. But if you can just get your hands on doing something with a knife, you're going to scratch the itch and you're going to move yourself forward. When I was a kid, you know, I liked the idea of making knives. This was an old hickory knife that we used around the house for a long time. And one particular summer, it was a day in June, and I think I was probably 14 years old. My dad chartered a salmon fishing trip out of Winchester Bay. That's just west of us here. There's usually a nice silver salmon run. There's still a nice silver salmon run in some years. And we got on this boat, and there were 6 seats, and we chartered all 6. And Mike Hood, my fishing buddy, went with me, and Mike could catch fish when nobody could catch fish. And we got out there, and we'd got over the bar, and by the time we first put our lines in the water, Mike was hanging his head over the side of the boat, puking like a dog, and that's where he stayed for the whole 5-hour trip. And the rest of us caught fish. The limit was 3 apiece, and we came home with 17 beautiful silvers, 8, 10-pound silvers, just chrome bright, covered with sea lice, bright orange flesh, and we took them home to clean them. There's a thing you may not know about, and that is in the Pacific Northwest, not Alaska, but in the Pacific Northwest, the salmon, the blood of the salmon has a bacteria in it, I think. There's something in the blood of the salmon around here that will kill a dog. Salmon poisoning kills dogs. If a dog finds a dead salmon on the beach around here and eats it, it's a dead dog. And if we knew that if we were cleaning our salmon and got any blood on the sidewalk, or, if our dog, we had a good dog. He was Abe. He was a great dog. I've got stories about Abe. So we were careful about gathering up all of the parts and pieces of skin and folding them into a newspaper and putting them in our wood stove to burn them up. And then when we were in the kitchen washing up the utensils, we realized that our old hickory knife was not in the mix. And Dad said, "Oh!" And he went to the wood stove And this knife had gotten folded into the newspaper with a salmon. And the handle, the hickory handle, was charred. And the blade was darkened, okay? It was not in the middle of the fire. There was no visible color. But he thought, well, we probably drew the temper out of that blade. And I said, well, can I try to put a handle on it? Sure. So I vaguely remember putting that handle on an old hickory knife. What is that now? 53 years ago? And we didn't have any tools. I don't think Dad had a bench grinder. He may have had a bench grinder. We didn't have a drill press. We had wood. We had files. We had hammers. There's no epoxy in that. But it was fun. And it was fun doing this. There's an element of satisfaction, it's the word, it's satisfaction in saving something from the dustbin, right? And making sure it stays part of your routine and continues to be a tool in your hand, or in this case, in my wife's hand. And she does the best work you could imagine in a kitchen. So this is a blessing. If this was not such a keepsake, I probably would tear that off and do it again, but I'm not doing that. That's the work of a kid who didn't know anything. And now that I'm 68, I realize I still don't know anything. There is so much to learn. This world is full of so much beauty and information and connection. There's not time before we die to learn anything, but we still do our best. And then if you happen to learn something, find an opportunity to pass it on. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman. Keep up the good work.